Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hi, it's Steve and Joe from Everag Insights, and we're back this week with a bit of a sneak peek at global trade and a bit of a rundown on some of the other atmospherics around this week's GDT event, Steve.
Okay, so this is a sneak peek of the January trade added up. Got all the big players in. It shows year on year what looks a fairly impressive growth in trade measured in milk solids equivalent. It's a strong month in January. It's all about the comparative. And when we look back a year, and we can see that we haven't really got a strong uptake here. This shows the regional trade, essentially the importing markets. Big uplift in the MENA region. We've seen that in milk powders, certainly seen that play out in GDT, but that may be slowing down. When we come to products, this is mostly about whole milk powder. That clearance sale at year end out of New Zealand has been part of it. I think Europeans moved quite a bit of whole milk powder as well. And then cheese also picked up across the board. So we'll have the detail of that soon, but interesting heads up on where things look for the month of January.
Yeah, sure. And I guess as European spring warms up, so European milk production, France and Germany, the big two, just on par with the last data. They have been a little bit ahead in the last few weeks. And we're starting to see some of those spot prices for milk just softening a little, Steve.
Yeah, so thinking that, in the background, milk prices being paid are in the mid-40s. So this is just softening a bit. Doesn't mean there's a huge wall of milk coming, but the fact that we see spot prices declining is always a sign there's a little bit around. We're into spring, so you've got to expect that.
Sure.
It's interesting to see where that goes.
But signs of drying out, Steve. We're just getting these maps of soil moisture, and we're just seeing a little bit of dryness emerging through some of those key regions.
Yeah, what to watch. East Germany and Poland in particular there. Just keep an eye on this. There's no crisis yet, but this is interesting to watch as this develops. Elsewhere, where there are greater problems for milk production, down in Argentina, still tanking 14% year on year. So it's starting to add up to a bit of milk volume and will certainly slow down their export trade, we would think, in whole milk powder. But they've got a big mix change underway in terms of how milk's being used. So just the implications of this are, yet to unfold. But,
pretty good, again, with China a little bit off the market, that a lot of that whole milk powder availability out of Latin America is not going to be there. So with those atmospherics, GDT this week, Steve, the price index falling 2.8%, not a huge surprise to most observers.
No, the lead up to this had weaker powder markets, and that was an expectation that we'd see falls there. Cheese is also a bit all over the shop. The US market's still quite weak. When we look at those contract outcomes, the only surprise I had was that the index itself says 2.8%, yet you see powders off 4 to 5%. Fats essentially trading blows up and down, a little bit of a decrease on cheddar. That's one of those GDT mysteries I'm yet to work out. Keep trying to unravel that.
It looks like it should be a bigger drop, doesn't it, with those category numbers? So what's going on behind the scenes here, Steve? We've got GDT prices coming more into alignment with the exception of cheddar, which again in the US is still very much below other global benchmarks. But everything else pretty much in alignment.
Demand side's still quite soft. We've got the issue about, are we going to see more milk come out of Europe? It's not just the spring volume, which is naturally increasing, but it's also, are we seeing real increase and will we see more commodities as a result of trying to manage the cheese market into stability? This event had quite weak demand. So that's the last event. And so just showing the comparison there that both powders were quite a bit weaker, and that had a lot to do with the fact that China again didn't turn up.
Sure.
More noticeably in skim milk powder, we saw quite weak buying. And this event's demand was, I keep saying this, quite a lot worse than the previous one, and we've seen that fall again. So it isn't going to go northly when you've got that poor start. When we look at whole milk powder, that was down largely because China's volumes were a lot weaker, and we were almost to the point looking a long way back to see when did they last buy this sort of small tonnage. Skim milk powder was similar, which I'll come on to next. But firstly, the other thing that's gone on here is that this confirms what we talked about last time. The Middle East has certainly pulled back, done their bit. Volumes are coming off, and we're down to quite low levels. Normal volumes really when you look across that. In terms of skim milk powder sales, China again disappointed, and that's to be expected. We also saw similar sort of numbers out of Southeast Asia, that the while the buying was maybe up a little bit. Normally, it's just not enough demand to pull this up. So eventually product gets allocated based on the bidders that turn up, but we don't see that demand being strong enough. We'll see the prices fall. And we're left this real rabble of prices forward prices in skim milk powder, the GDT way below. And again, as we always say, these NZX futures or SGX futures still well above, dark blue line, still well above reality in terms of what's being paid for skim. So still some expectation there that we might see an uplift. Joe, chart of the week. What have we got this time?
Well, still on the trade message, I guess. We've got some European trade data out of January, and it's a little bit of a mixed bag there. You're looking across at whole milk powder up, not a big product obviously there, but skim milk powder still quite a bit down year on year. And when you look across to where those SMP exports are headed, you can see that a lot of that reduction in shipments is really around the Asian markets. So one to watch again as European spring heats up, we've got a little bit more availability. Is that reflecting that there's just not the demand in Asia? Is that a function of the shipping disruptions we've seen in the Red Sea? It's going to be an interesting one to unfold in the next couple of months, Steve.
Absolutely. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week.